plan to begin with the first open house session with the African Government Representative and Trade Association. And the theme of the discussion is walking the tightrope, balancing government policy and market players' interest in volatile cashew markets. And may I request Ms. Rita Whitinger, Executive Director, Cashew, to kindly join us on the dais as the moderator. Please welcome Ms. Rita Whitinger. Our other panelists, may we request them as well. Mr. Ernest Minta, Managing Director, African Cashew Alliance. Mr. Mamdou Berthe, Director General, Joint Cotton and Cashew Nut Council, Côte d'Ivoire. Mr. Tola Farasu, President, National Cashew Association of Nigeria and Executive Director of African Cashew Alliance. Not a problem. Mr. William, Nigerian Export Promotion Council. And Mr. Elidio Afonso Jose, Promotion Institute of Cashew, Mozambique. A very warm welcome to all our panelists who've joined us here. Thank you so much. And as we all understand that our panelists represent important organizations and associations from Africa, the objective would be to understand from them the possible direction of policies and priorities of the government in this year, that is 2019, and beyond, perhaps to share with them some of we request them to share their inputs about the industry trade in Africa. And you can be ready, prepare your questions. In the interest of time, we got to be specific in putting across our questions in not more than probably a minute, so that everybody gets an opportunity. And we also request you to frame your questions accordingly, which need to be about the structural and industry-related issues and not individual company-oriented. And with that, I hand it over to our moderator, Ms. Rita. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Republic Day. I know some of you are already in the celebration mode. And celebrating means also talking, exchanging about what has happened, learning from the past. We have from India 70 years now of republic history. We also want to hear what happens in our production countries in West and Eastern Africa. And that's where we have the illustrious panel here. We have just been introduced, and I don't want to reintroduce now, but go straight to a first presentation, giving us an overview of different regulatory frameworks, different incentive mechanisms in several African producing countries. We will not go worldwide today unless you help us afterwards in the open house. So we will start off with the lessons from several African countries, and whom better can I ask to do that than the Managing Director of the African Cashew Alliance, Mr. Ernest Minta, who has started not 70 years ago, but 10 years ago, to look into the cashew sector. Mr. Ernest Minta, please give him a hand of applause.
Thank you very much, Rita. And please, let's have the presentations. My name is Ernest Minta, the Managing Director for the African Cashew Alliance. In the last 3 years, we have seen African governments introduce different policies trying to impact on the sector. And what we have been doing at the African Cashew Alliance and also with our partners, the GIZ, is to try to study all these policies and to find out how they are impacting on the different countries and also on the sector generally in Africa. Actually, what I'm going to present to you is only the first part of the study we have done, which is more on inventorizing the policies. And then later on, maybe in another forum, we are also going to have our annual conference in November in Tanzania. We will then bring a more detailed study talking about what initial impacts have been had. So starting with the presentation, I'm going to go more into the next slide, which is talking more about the content. And first of all, I'll be talking about what government institutional frameworks are there in the different countries which are being used to, develop these policies and to monitor the policies that are there. And then it will be followed by the cashew sector policies that are actually being implemented on the ground in the different countries. Actually, the policies are differentiated into two types. So there are policies that are focusing on the RCN, and then there are policies that are also targeting on processing. So I'll be presenting to you these different types of policies. Again, the issue is, as I said, I'm not looking at impact initially because it's too early. It's 1 year, 2 years in implementation, most of these policies. So I'll be presenting to you the initial observations and what key questions are coming up as a result of that. And then as a topic alluded to, we're talking about walking a tightrope. So how do we walk a tightrope in the circumstances given all the policies around and the instability and also the issues of the sector today. In terms of the inventory we have done so far, we see that in Africa, the countries are organizing the sector using national cashew agencies, and in some countries, they are also using desk offices or desk officers for monitoring the sector. And usually their role is to regulate or to promote the sector. And they develop policies mostly by the decisions that are taken within government, and a few times, very often, with some input from the private sector. But I think so far, in the way we have seen it, we haven't had too much private sector engagement in the development of these policies in the different countries. But if you take the institutional arrangements, Côte d'Ivoire, we have the CCA, Conseil Coton and Acad, which is responsible for regulation of the taxes, development of the sector, promotion of production, and then also processing, and then coordination of the overall performance of the sector. In Tanzania, we also had the CBT, which today it's also been really subsumed within the Ministry of Agric. A lot of the decisions are now being taken within the Ministry of Agric, but eventually we also expect that it comes back to play the role it was playing previously. In Mozambique, we also have the cashew, which is responsible for the development of the cashew sector, and then together with the committee which has been established in Mozambique, they set certain policies relating to taxes and then also at what level the season can start, among others. In Guinea-Bissau, there is also a government agency known as ANCA, which plays a quasi-regulatory role, but then a lot of the decisions and policies that are coming out for the sector are developed by the Ministry of Agric in Guinea-Bissau. Ghana is also looking at introducing a regulatory authority, which will be known as the Ghana Tree Crop Authority. And here it will not only be responsible for cashew, but then two other crops will be involved. There is stock of oil, palm, and shea, and this authority will be responsible for developing all the policies relating to these three crops. So these are some of the institutions or institutional arrangements that are being employed by governments in Africa to regulate the sector. I'm now going to go into the next level where I'm talking about what key policies are being implemented by the governments in Africa. There are, under the RCN targeted policies, 4 types of policy instruments. The first policy instrument is the ban on export. The second policy instrument is a tax on the RCN export. The third one is buyer or exporter licensing requirements. And then finally, we have the minimum farm gate price. If you take the ban on export, we have Côte d'Ivoire and Benin, where there is a ban on land export of raw cashew nuts to the neighboring countries. But in the case of Kenya, which is a very small crop, but it's important to mention it here, they are having a ban on both land and sea export. So the idea is that no commodity, no cashew leaves the country. Everything is retained in there for the processing factories there. If you take the tax on RCN, various governments have used the tax on RCN as a way to protect the processing industry. And it has ranged from as high as, let's say the lower end is $0.063 per kilo to as high as $15 per kilo. In other countries, they also measure it in percentage terms. We have 15% in Tanzania and then 18% in Mozambique. The last 3 to 4 days, new policy announcements have been made in Mozambique, which I believe Mr. Bande will be talking about. But the idea is to further reduce it from 18% on the export price to as low as 16% along the line. So we are going to get a lot more details from Mr. Bande on that. Now, concerning the buyer license requirements, these appear to cut across all the countries we have in West Africa and also in East Africa. All the countries require some form of licensing to be obtained by exporters before the export can be done. But then there are strict regimes in Guinea-Bissau, Cote d'Ivoire, and also in Tanzania, where various levels of payments are required to be able to access the license before you can export. Now, the last instrument under the RCN targeted policies is the minimum prices. This has been a very tricky one, often not so sure what the intentions of these policies are, and then what again it is expected to achieve. So we have some minimum prices ranging from about $90 in Guinea-Bissau, where the day it was introduced, the next day the price was $1.50 per kilo. So it's really not sure what the intentions were. To also as high as $1.43, the recent experience with Tanzania, which we have heard, and then we know we will get into the details of it in terms of intentions, which is to promote processing, but also ultimately how we can also look at supporting these governments to look at what level of minimum pricing is realistic. But as I've said, it has always been very difficult to understand this particular policy instrument which has been used by governments, what intentions are and what impacts are expected. I'll now move on to talk about the processor-specific policy instruments. So these are instruments that have been introduced also by the governments which are directed at promoting processing in their respective countries. So you have Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, and Mozambique all having defined periods within which only processors can buy before it is opened to the rest of the world in terms of the external buyers. And this is strictly enforced in a country like Mozambique, and which has contributed a lot to the success they have chalked in terms of expanding processing in recent times. Again, the next policy measure is to require a specific percentage of the export volumes to be sold to local processors before exporters are allowed to export. Particularly in Cote d'Ivoire, exporters are supposed to export about 15% of the raw cashew nuts. They are supposed to sell 15% of the raw cashew nuts to processors who are linked to them before they can take the rest of the volume out. It hasn't come very easy in terms of implementation, and I believe here Mamadou Bete from CCA will also throw more light on that. But we also have similar things in Benin, requiring some sales to processors before the rest can be sent out. Again, in Cote d'Ivoire, they are also implementing some subsidies which are paid to processors who are transforming the raw cashew nuts in country before it is exported out. So here it is based on the volume of kernels you export, and it is at a price of $0.73 per kg of kernel exported. So any kernel you export, you receive $0.73 on every kg, which has been a big incentive for promoting processing in Cote d'Ivoire in recent times. Finally, in Cote d'Ivoire also, there is a loan guarantee scheme which has been introduced, which allows for the government to guarantee 25% of the loans that are going to processors up to a maximum of 5 billion francs CFA. So these are some of the very specific key policies that are being implemented in these countries, which we have monitored for the last year. Now, I talked about the fact that we are not going to give any impact because it's too early to talk about impact. Of course, we also know what has happened in Tanzania. It's a clear impact, but I think I will stay more with talking about observations we have made over the last year in terms of what policies have been introduced and what the reactions have been also from the market. The initial observations we have made are that these policies are not harmonized. Also, even different countries with different policies, and this is leading to a situation where there is also difficulty in their implementation. But as I said, they are new policies, none of them being implemented for more than 3 years. So it also is still early days to talk about what direction they will go in the end and what impact they will result in. Again, because of the fact that some countries are implementing tax regimes and others are not in the African continent, you have a situation where there's a lot of informal trade, to put it bluntly, smuggling taking place across the borders, especially from countries such as Cote d'Ivoire through Burkina Faso, Ghana, to get to the port. So countries like Ghana and Burkina Faso have become transit points for informally traded raw cashew nuts that are coming from particularly Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea-Bissau. Again, there's been high variation of prices. You find in even a particular trading area, the prices fluctuating very highly, just within even on daily basis, weekly basis. And overall, we have also seen then a reduction or a drop, significant drop in raw cashew nut prices over the last 4 years, coming to the levels of 2015 in 2018. So we've seen that if we look at the prices that farmers were receiving in 2018, it is very much the levels that were there in 2015, so showing a marked decline here. Finally, in terms of the observations, I will also want to talk about the fact that in-country processing appears to be growing in Africa generally. And if you take the case of Cote d'Ivoire, where we have noticed that from a level of about 10 processing factories in 2015, today we have almost about 26 factories being installed. And then the processing capacity also has grown tremendously over the years. We also see in Mozambique, which is a very good example of how the policies really can trigger, particularly processing. We see that about more than 35% of the local production is being processed internally, and this is also growing over the years. And we believe that it is good to also look at these examples and to see how it can be replicated in other countries. But key questions remain. Some of the questions we are picking up are that, are governments using these policies, particularly the tax on RCN, to promote local processing, which probably might not be competitive? This is the question that is coming up more and more. Is local processing competitive, or is it becoming competitive only on the basis of the taxes that are being introduced? So here, these are also issues that we need to study further and be able to refute, and to show that, yes, processing on the continent is competitive, and that it is not only becoming competitive on account of the taxes that have been introduced. Again, what will the supply situation be, given the fact that the prices are continuously falling? Is it going to be a situation where we might also begin to see a fall in supply, given that we are at the level of 2015 now? What is going to happen in terms of impact on production, processing, quality, and other elements in there? But then ultimately also the question that is coming up is that, what is the role of the Consultative International Cashew Council? Can we have a harmonization of the policies? Can we have even a common tariff system, a common tax system across all the different countries, so that it can be easily monitored and it can be easily understood by actors in the value chain? Now let me move, after I've talked about these initial observations, to specifically address the title of the theme that we have here, which is more about walking the tightrope, and how do we walk the tightrope. So for us, in terms of how to walk the tightrope, we are saying that we need to undertake a lot of studies into the policies that are being introduced. So far, it is very difficult to even understand the intentions behind some of the policies that have been introduced. Some of them have been ad hoc in nature, making it very difficult to also comprehend what the end result expected by the government is. So we need to also be able to study it properly so that we'll be able to advise governments on how these policies will impact. Again, we need to also quicken the implementation of the CICC, and here I look to Cote d'Ivoire, which is championing it, so that we can have a common platform where we have all governments and be able to address them together and then to get the sector moving on the continent. Again, it is more about market intelligence. You don't question a policy when you don't have information. So we need to gather more data and be able to confront the policy makers with the data, with the market intelligence, and to show them whatever action or instrument or policy they introduce, how it impacts ultimately on the prices and also on generally the entire sector. And for them then to know what level of policy or what types of policy to introduce. Again, we also need to enhance issues like quality control and traceability, and then limit the policy instruments. There are sometimes a whole wide number of policies, even in a particular country, which sometimes are contradictory, and then needs actually to be reduced so that it is easy to monitor and to be able to understand what the intentions are. Again, sometimes even the level at which the policies are directed will have to be looked at. Particularly a policy like the percentage that an exporter has to sell to a processor. If you are implementing a policy of that nature at the level of an exporter, by the time the exporter has received it, there's a lot of cost buildup. So probably a policy of that nature could also be placed much closer to the farm gate so that the cost buildup is lower and the processor can pick the product without putting pressure on the exporter to sell at a lower price when they've received the product only at the ports. Finally, I would like to say that to walk this tightrope, it calls for responsible behavior. Responsible behavior from all actors, from the market, from governments, because we are walking on a rope. We are all on the same rope. It's not about shift or get off and let me move. It is about all moving together in sync and to make sure that we achieve the objectives that are desired by the sector. If you force somebody off, yes, you might be on, but you will also experience turbulence for a period, which might also cause you to tumble over in the long run. So I think it is really, in my view, to walk this tightrope in terms of what policies are coming, the situation of the sector. It calls for all of us to be moving together in the same direction. It calls for greater dialogue with governments, with markets, and to make sure that we all understand what is needed in terms of policies and to implement these policies together. On that note, I say thank you very much to all of you, and I'll wait for your questions.
Thank you very much. Ernest Minter, Managing Director of the African Cashew Alliance. I think we have gotten a very good overview already of that tightrope, where we are all hanging together, different solutions to similar questions. And I heard already we have good examples where we say we can both foster in-country processing, but also allow reasonable exports and foster qualities. And you have mentioned Mozambique in that case, so I think it's good to continue directly with Mozambique and hear how did you do it? You are the elder in Africa together with Tanzania. Everybody says, let's look up to the elder and hear your story, how you did it. So please, Mr. Elidio Bande, National Director of the Cashew Promotion Institute in Cashew, please give us your insights. We have some slides on that too, and Mr. Bande, with a round of applause, we invite you to the podium. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Mozambican delegation. First of all, I want to thank the organization to invite us to talk about the cashew sector in Mozambique. I have a small presentation. My name is Elidio Bande. As Madame Rita said, I'm the National Director of Cashew, which is the National Institute of Promotion of Cashew. So, for who doesn't know where is Mozambique is located, as you see in the south of Africa, we are neighbor with the Tanzania in the north, and in the south we have the South Africa and the Swaziland. In east part we have the Indian Ocean. So, in terms of cashew subsector in Mozambique, we have it is the very important subsector in Mozambique because it covers more than 1.4 million of people, more or less smallholders, and we have also, in terms of our level in the global situation, in terms of processing, we are fourth in the world, and in terms of global production, we are eighth. It means that in 2000, we produce more or less 50,000 tons, and then in 2018 we produce 1,029 tons of raw cashew nuts. And in this time we have 16 processing plants which process more than 54,000 tons and employs more than 16,000 people, more or less 90,000 women. So for 1990, we have a plan to produce, in terms of seedling, 4.6 million seedlings, and in terms of production in general, we plan to produce for this year 170,000 tons, and to process domestically 66,000 tons. It is our plan for this year. So, in terms of outlook in general, so our plan is, as I said, is 1,040 tons, but at this moment, until 15th of January, we have in our data more than 1,021 tons. The average of the price at the farmer level is more or less $1 per kilo, and our ton increased. Now we have more or less 46 to 47. It's our actual outturn. And we plan to process 80,000 tons. At this moment, our plant factories, they have stocked more or less 55,000 tons. And the exporters, they plan to export 20,000, but I think that they will export more than this. This is so in terms of opportunity of investment that we have a long tradition in cashew production. Mozambican farmers, they know how to produce very well cashew. We have a lot of land availability is not a problem. We have a suitable agroecological condition to produce cashew. And we have a strategic location, as I say, location in the map, and also in cashew, and the donors can support who wants to invest in Mozambique. We have a law and regulation that supports the industry. So this note said that we have started to export on 11 January. We opened the exportation because our industry have stock that is they can process all the year. So that's the information that I have to give you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bande. We have heard from Mozambique, and yes, we have seen you are doing your support for the local processing, and you have regulations in place yesterday, and I don't know whether the person wants to out, but there is a worry in the room. And the worry is that before you had 18% for the raw cashew nut exports, but currently that figure is open. So where will it go? Will it go, what ACA said, 16%? Will it go up? Will it go down? How can investors know? Do I invest in processing? How can I rely on your government? Please.
Well, we maintain the 18% of tax because we think that it's a measure, it's a policy measure to protect domestic industry. And also, in the commercialization process, we do the exportation of RCN after we supply the local domestic industry. Mm-hmm. And also we have a guarantee fund that we can concede to the small processors. And also we have some donors that support for big processors. If you want to build a new factory, the donors can give you funding. And also we have, as I say in my presentation, we have available land. The government gives you the land, the right of land, we call duat in Mozambique. We can support you to have the land, and you can invest in processing as well in planting. Do you have any problem because the government can support you?
Thank you very much. And the export tax will remain, but not on 18%, but a bit lower. What is the idea?
We are still discussing with the private sector. We don't know now if it will remain or will lower, but maybe it can lower, but it will still remain between 18%.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. I think it's important to hear that from your mouth. Thank you. Coming from the elder in the cashew sector, Mozambique, let us also go to Nigeria, to West Africa, and listen what Nigerian government is doing. And I think that nobody can do better than the Director of Production Development, our representative of the Director for the National Export Promotion Council, Mr. William Esergu. Please tell us, what do you do well, and what do you want to do better? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank everybody. I want to use the opportunity to appreciate the organizers and the participants. For Nigeria, in terms of cashew nut production and processing, is one of the products that Nigeria has taken as a priority product in terms of non-oil export. As you all know, Nigeria's major revenue comes from crude oil. But about 3 years ago, we made a new policy, what we called zero oil plan, meaning that if we don't get money from oil, can't we succeed? Can't we do other things? And so we decided to formulate plans and a strategy that had to focus on non-oil products. And we selected some products as a priority products. And luckily, cashew nut or cashew is one of the products we selected. And based on that, we developed strategies in line with the federal government's larger plan, what we call the ERGP, Economic Recovery and Development Plan. Now, under that plan, the cashew nut sector is divided into two, the production side and the export side. Under the production side, we look at issues of land acquisition, land clearing, for farmers, cashew nut being a kind of a tree crop, the ecological zone that supports it needs a lot of clearing because of the rainforest and of course the savanna belt where it is supposed to be. So in that case, government is supporting farmers with inputs, with clearing, with good seedlings as well. In fact, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources, which handles the product under it, gives this a lot of support to farmers in terms of seedlings. I think the seedling is very important because the better seed you get, that has to do with increasing the output per hectare, the better. And again, that's where the ministry intervened, as well as also trying to, give the farmers agrochemicals to use to, in terms of grow the product. Also, in terms of farming, some sprayers. The government has acquired some sprayers which they give to selected farmer clusters, especially those in the clusters, to enable them to grow, their products. Now, in terms of processing, actually, that is where we are now because of the situation we find ourselves. As you all know, 2018 was not too good for cashew processing, as the price suddenly slumped. So suddenly there was a lot of surplus nuts in the warehouses. And so the option left to government was how do we promote the processing? And that is why the federal government of Nigeria has really helped the sector. By what we do, one is the export incentives. Unfortunately, when the ACA rep was talking, he didn't mention about Nigeria in any of his presentation. But I want to say that Nigeria has done a lot. Number one, we don't tax, we don't have ban on RCN, so that leaves the place open. Two is that we don't, there's actually no regulatory in terms of forcing people to sell to the processor. If you force them to sell processor, right now that the price is down, will you force them to? You cannot. So it's, I think sometimes with the market forces, determine. But more important, like I said, we're encouraging processing. That's why actually we are in this conference. We are exporting processing, less process in Nigeria and export from Nigeria. Number one is that Nigeria has a large market which you can, leverage on. But the more important also that the infrastructure, is there to enable you to move to the export market. If you go to our stand there, you will discover that there's a banner we have that tells you the advantages of processing and exporting. So actually that's why we're here. And like I said, the government of Nigeria is so serious about processing that we have, like I said, we have what to call the export expansion grant, just like in Cote d'Ivoire where they pay some money to the processor, to enable him to offset some of the expenses or to be competitive in the final end. That's what we do in Nigeria. We have the export expansion grant, which we give to exporters who have processed and exported. We also have what to call the export development fund, whereby, what to call pre-shipment, incentives. In other words, if there are certain things you need to do before you go into the processing or during the processing or before the export, yes, those incentives are there. As well as also, we're also trying to deepen that incentives by promoting the product itself. Like we're in the Export Promotion Council, assuming you are part of us, you are you're registered with us, we take your product outside overseas, in terms of getting market for you. So those are kind of incentives we do. But again, somebody talked yesterday was talking about the port. the port yesterday, yes, I was not opportune to answer that question, but I want to say that the Lagos port issue for exporters of other products, apart from cashew, any other thing, we have got a new port, called Ikorodu Port. I don't know many of you know Lagos. You know there's a facility known as Ikorodu Light Terminal. Now, all exports from Nigeria will go through that port. And from that port, they move it to Apapa, and from there you come. So the issue of pilferaging as a result of the, issues on the Lagos port have been taken care of by that new arrangement. And by Monday, that port will be launched, and it will become a terminal for export of produce from Nigeria. Maybe as time goes on, we might take more questions, but I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hear the encouraging statements of the Nigerian government with an incentive policies. You talk about funds, about money. You talk about infrastructure, which you provide, lesser regulatory and forcing cells, but encouraging. Allow me to jump directly to the private sector, and I also would like to invite the Nexim Bank afterwards to give us a statement. How do your incentives look like? And Mr. Tola Fazero, are you satisfied? What do you want different? What do you want more as a private sector? Representing here the private sector, you are also an executive director of ACA. So I know that you will add in the presentation all the incentives existing, but what really do you want more or different from the government of Nigeria? It's a good place also to discuss publicly and say what has worked for you already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. And of course, I would like to use this opportunity to thank very profusely Mr. Srivastava and his team for the great job that they're doing. Thank you very, very much. And of course, to thank the audience. In Nigeria, just like the director has said, there has been a paradigm shift because Nigeria has been an oil, what you call a mono-product country, but in recent times, our government has taken it upon themselves to wanting to diversify the economy. And fortunately, cashew has been selected as one of the strategic products with which the government wants to diversify the economy. For us in the cashew sector, of course, we have seen tremendous improvement, tremendous growth in terms of area of acceptability in the international market. The Nigerian cashew brand has become, something that is attractive to many due to a whole lot of activities that we've been doing, sensitizing our farmers, making them understand the importance of quality drying as early as possible, the importance of good agricultural practices, the importance of post-harvest handling practices, good storage and things like that. And of course, we've had fantastic partnership with government in that respect, in coordinating and conducting trainings across the country. We hope to do more, and we expect more collaboration from government in that respect. Also, one of the challenges we have in Nigeria, as everybody knows, is the influx of foreign nationals into the farm gates. That has really caused a lot of problem for us because the quality is affected. The farmers are pressured to sell the commodity, when they've not done what they should do on the product, the proper drying. And that's because, our friends, foreigners, go in right into the bushes, even to places where some locals would not even go into, and set up warehouses and then do things that are inimical to the growth and development of the product or of the commodity. Fortunately, it's been a tough war, but we have the full support of our government. A presentation will be made to the Federal Executive Council by the Ministry of Trade in that respect to see that is curtailed. So we hope that this year we will have a bit of better quality, better stability in terms of pricing, because one of the problems we have is that at times you don't have parity because everybody's in a hurry. People go to the bush and distract the farmers from doing what they should do. So that is great. We're better collaboration that we expect. We want to go all the way in that respect. Of course, in terms of infrastructure, you heard what the director said in terms of the new port. Hopefully, that port, the government will see that it's a viable alternative, that will make things faster for us. The other aspect is making platforms, drying platforms for the farmers, in the various growing areas. We already put up a proposal on that. I believe very, very soon the Export Promotion Council, they're already showing interest in supporting us in that regard. Of course, financing, more of it. Government is working hard, and of course to prove and to let us know how ready and how collaborative the government wants to be. We have our esteemed Executive Director of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mrs. Stella Okotete here. I think, please help me give her a big round of applause. That's the Nigerian Export and Import Bank Executive Director. So we have what we call the export finance for exporters. So we expect that our exporters will have more funds to do what they're doing. So basically, we're expecting a lot more in terms of support so that we can do more transformation, more processing of cashew. But I can tell you, Nigeria is a country to beat, and we're on the go. 2017, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture went with us to Vietnam, and we visited factories in Vietnam to see how things are being done there. So I know in a short while you'll be hearing from us, and the policies also will be made robust and easy for any investor to come and invest in Nigeria. The export promotion, the export grant for processors is robust, about 30%, that you get back from your investment, from your sales. If you make $1 million sale, you can get back $300,000 back from government. These are incentives that Nigeria is bringing forth. We also expect that when the Cashew International Consultative Council get on stream, we'll be able to have proper harmonization across Africa, and each country can benefit from the experience of the other. And then, of course, things can be on the same level across Africa. So I think Nigeria is a place to be. 200 million people, the biggest market in Africa. Even apart from the export market, the local market is big enough if you come in and invest in Nigeria. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Tola Fasero from the National Cashew Association, Nigeria. A lot of inviting words, a lot of incentives. Tola, I will come back to you on the quality question, but I want to take your invitation to Madame Stella from the Nexim Bank, whether you can give us just a short overview. How do you do your incentives on the financial level? I think we have Nexim Bank here with two strong ladies, so nothing can go wrong if the money is in the hands of ladies. Sorry, I'm a bit biased with my sex.
You're very right. The Nigerian Export and Import Bank is an export credit agency. It was founded in 1991. Our job is simple: to provide export guarantees and funds to exporters. And we've been doing this through our various products. Presently, we're operating the Exports Development Fund, which is a 50 billion naira fund made available to exporters. As we're aware, the cashew season is at its arrival stage, or is just about to start. So we're making available about 50 billion tied specifically to cashew exports. We also have the Export Stimulation Fund, which is a 500 billion naira facility, also available for exporters. But we're looking beyond exporting our raw cashew nuts, because as an agency of government, we understood that exporting raw cashew nuts means that we're exporting our labor, we're exporting employment. And we have the population who are massively unemployed. We need to create employment for them. So that facility, the 500 billion naira, will be targeting those investors or those exporters that are willing to add value to the export of cashew nuts, sesame seeds, and other commodities. So we came up with an acronym, PAVE: Produce, Add Value, and Export. So if you fall into this category, that facility is available. And also, in order to also support the intra-Africa trade, we had a new facility, a line of credit with the Afri-Exim Bank, which we are managing. It's a $1 billion facility to also drive exports of commodities as well as manufactured goods. So I'm sure exporting cashew nuts within the Africa continent would also, exporters under that cluster would also benefit. We're not just looking at those directly involved in the export. We're doing end-to-end export transactions for logistics, movement of goods from the farms to the ports, as well as from the ports to the buyers. We're doing an end-to-end support line for all exporters within the value chain. We also provide financial advisory services and market information to our exporters. Because of the problems that we faced in 2018, we are hopefully going to, organize a stakeholders engagement meeting immediately I get back to Nigeria, so we can actually address the problems that, cashew exporters are facing and come up with solutions to avoid a reoccurrence in this 2019-2020. This is just a brief of what we do. And by the grace of God, I'm also targeting that by 2022, we should double our export from Nigeria by 100%. So we should be looking at 2022. Please remind me when I come back in 2022, because I hope that our export will have gone to 600,000 metric tons at then. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I know that is music in the ears of business. And it's not empty talk, it's incentive structures which are there in Nigeria, and we all want to learn from that. Before I come to our elephant, Côte d'Ivoire, I still want to ask a few questions. Sorry. No I want to still ask a few questions also in the round here from other countries, what you can add as mechanism, as lessons. And I know what has been in the room, what has been discussed already a bit, but I still want to invite our friends from Tanzania, whether you can explain us. We know that your auctioning system has been one of the most successful, and that's why so much business has come to Tanzania on cashew. That's why your farmers had a good market. But what exactly has stopped that auction in 2018, and how can you go back to your successful modus? Honorable Minister, I'm looking a bit at you, but I know you have a lot of people helping you in the room to give us ideas. What will happen in Tanzania? How do we get back onto that success which we have been used to? So may I tease our Tanzanian friends to help us on a lesson from Tanzanian regulations. I know our elder Peter Masawe, doctor, professor, and friend, has a whole library of experience, and please share with us what has happened and how can we count on Tanzanian success again.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, for inviting Tanzania to share experience with others. Let me tell you that the Tanzanian cashew industry is well organized, very well organized in terms of production, in terms of quality, and also, all of we are aware, Tanzania is the only country in Africa that have cashew varieties. We have established a very good system of traceability. Whatever you buy in Tanzania, you know exactly it is coming from which district. You can even know it is coming from which village. And all our Ghana bags are labeled. However, as Rita, you are aware, cashew raw nut trade is very tricky. A year before, you remember, Vietnamese came to buy cashew nuts in Tanzania. They end up importing stones, gravels, rather than cashew nuts. It was done by the middlemen. In this season again, when we started opening the market, the tendering system started. You can't believe me. The difference between one bidder and the second bidder was 1 or 2 shillings, which means there was a cartel. Be informed, the cost of production of cashew in Tanzania is the highest in Africa for 2 reasons. West Africa, you have no diseases. In Tanzania, we have disease. If you don't control the disease, you will lose almost 80% of the crop. So farmers, they bought fungicides, which were equally very expensive, even from the same traders. So they trade on the fungicides, insecticides, at the same time they trade on the raw cashew nuts. Now, the same buyers now, there was a cartel. So the first auction, the price was very low. The second auction, the same. The third auction, the same. That's why the government decided that because farmers in the cashew growing areas, the main source of cash income is cashew nuts. Now, until almost coming to November, there was no business. It means farmers remained to be poor, remained without money. That's why government decided to intervene and say, okay, we are going to buy everything. And also, we opened our eyes that now we need even to add the value of the raw cashew nuts. And this is where we are. It is the make of the traders, not the make of the government. But it was important for the government to intervene. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Peter Masawe. We have heard an unofficial statement of the government, I believe, and we are yet to hear the official statement very soon, which is much expected in that room. So we know government has a strong concern in Tanzania for the farmers and takes a strong position for the farmers. Our invitation here is also look at the business side and how that tightrope can be tied really together. With that, I come to, I said, our elephants. You have grown a bit fat with cashew, not personally, as a country, and we are happy about that. The projections which we have seen yesterday project for Côte d'Ivoire, 750 to 800,000 tons. Some say it's going beyond. Everybody is looking at Côte d'Ivoire, which has half of the African crop, which has a third of the African export. We rely on you. Processors all over the world, India and Vietnam, rely on you. You have policies for export, production, processing. How are you doing this? And you are a leader also in the Consultative International Cashew Council, a new baby on the block, which is still a bit clumsy, not yet strong on the feet. How are you doing it? What has worked? And how can you address the international business community with your regulations? Mr. Mamadou Berthet, Director General Adjoint from the Cotton and Cashew Council. We have translation, as he will speak in French. The translation will be done by Mr. Emmanuel Obeo, also in the room. Thank you.
Merci Rita. Je pense que Rita connaît bien la filière de la Côte d'Ivoire pour avoir participé dès le début à la réforme. C'est un plaisir pour moi de partager avec toute l'Assemblée, je dis, l'expérience de la Côte d'Ivoire. Mais avant tout, il faut connaître un peu l'historique de cette filière. C'est que la...
Thank you very much, Rita. Rita knows the cashew sector in Côte d'Ivoire very well since she has participated to the reform. But before engaging in my speech, you have to know a little bit history about the cashew sector in Côte d'Ivoire.
Avant 2013, on avait une autorité de régulation qui était l'ARECA, qui était spécialement créée pour juste la régulation. Quand on dit régulation, c'est juste délivrer des agréments et donner un peu les prix avec les opérateurs. Mais à l'arrivée de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président Alassane Ouattara, en 2011, il a souhaité une réforme totale de cette filière, à l'instant. Oui.
Before 2013, we had an authority of regulations called ARECA. This authority of regulations was just there to deliver licenses and to give the price. Now, with the the president that we had, Mr. Alassane Ouattara, in 2011, he wanted a total reform of the sector.
Donc, après des travaux par rapport à cette réforme, nous sommes arrivés à la création du Conseil du coton de la NACAD, qui maintenant a plus de missions, c'est-à-dire, en plus de la régulation, le suivi et le développement de cette filière.
And then, with this reform, we have arrived to the Cotton and Cashew Council, who has more mission. On top of regulation, one of the missions is follow-up and monitoring.
Donc, avec ces nouvelles missions, il fallait vraiment, je vais dire, revoir tout le système, toute la chaîne de valeur au niveau de la NACAD, partie du producteur, de traitant, et même au niveau de la commercialisation et ensuite au niveau de la transformation. Mais l'objectif majeur pour la Côte d'Ivoire, c'était vraiment au niveau de la transformation.
Now with these new regulations and with these new missions, we wanted to go from the producer to the processor. The major objective of that reform and the new missions was processing.
Donc je vais peut-être vous épargner un peu tout ce qu'il y a eu comme travaux, mais en résumé, aujourd'hui, vous avez un conseil du coton et de la NACAD qui est chargé du suivi et du développement, comme je disais. Donc c'est nécessairement à partir de tout ce qu'il y a eu comme diagnostic au niveau de la chaîne de valeur qu'il y a eu de nouvelles mesures.
So I'm not going to give you all the information concerning the new mission, but what I will say is that the Cotton and Cashew Council now has a mission of follow-up in development. And I'm going to give you some measures.
La première des mesures pour nous, c'était d'abord de vraiment s'attaquer aux producteurs en termes de formation. En termes de formation,
One of the first measures was for us to cater to the producers in terms of training.
c'est pour cela que vous constaterez qu'en Côte d'Ivoire, on a un encadrement dédié aux producteurs dans lequel le Conseil du coton et de l'ANACAD a signé une convention avec l'ANADER, l'Agence nationale de développement rural.
That's why you will see that in Côte d'Ivoire, the producers are really supervised with a convention signed with ANADER, which is the agency, the extension agency in Côte d'Ivoire, Extension Agriculture Agency in Côte d'Ivoire. ANADER.
Je pense que tous ceux qui travaillent en Côte d'Ivoire ont constaté un peu l'évolution en termes de production. Nous étions, avant cette réforme, environ 400 000 tonnes. Aujourd'hui, on est pratiquement à 800 000 tonnes.
And I think that everybody that works in Côte d'Ivoire have seen the evolution and the results obtained. Before this supervision and this convention signed with ANADER, we were at 400,000 tons, and now we are at almost 800,000 tons, which is a significant evolution.
Donc, après tout cela, il y a eu des mesures, vraiment, je peux dire, ce sont des mesures opérationnelles.
And after that, we had new measures, which are, I can say, operational measures.
Entre autres, sûrement, certains ont vu des mesures où on disait, par exemple, aux exportateurs de ne pas aller au bord champ, de ne pas aller au contact même du producteur, parce qu'on estime qu'on a un schéma de commercialisation. Vous avez le producteur, vous avez des acheteurs, et après, vous avez les exportateurs.
So one of the first measures I think that most of you have seen is that we are asking the exporters not to go to directly in contact with the producer. Like you see, we have a precise scheme of organization. We have the producers, the buyers, and the exporters.
Aussi, pour soutenir la transformation dans cette réforme, on a je vais dire, privilégié les transformateurs qui sont les seuls habilités à aller directement au contact du producteur et, je vais dire, faire du sourcing, de l'approvisionnement.
Also, in this new scheme, we gave a lot of privilege to the processor, which are the only one who are allowed to go directly source with the producers.
Pour nous, cet avantage c'est un avantage très important parce que permettre à un opérateur d'aller directement au contact, non seulement il élimine un peu tout ce qui est intermédiaire, mais aussi en termes de qualité, c'est vraiment un avantage pour cet opérateur.
And for us, for this economical operator, it's really an advantage because we allow him to go directly in contact with the producer, and the first advantage is that it would eliminate the middleman, and on top of that, we have a better quality, and that is one of the advantages that we have noticed.
D'accord. Pour cette réforme aussi, auparavant, c'est vrai qu'on agréait les exportateurs, mais on se limitait seulement à ce niveau. Mais aujourd'hui, on agrée les acheteurs qui travaillent dans cette chaîne de commercialisation. Donc tout le monde est identifié pratiquement.
It is true that before the reform, we used to give licenses to the exporters. But with the reform, we even give licenses to the buyers. So everybody is identified. We know who are the different players exactly, with precision.
D'accord. Maintenant, pour revenir aux mesures, je pense que M. Minta a fait un bon descriptif des mesures en Côte d'Ivoire. Il faut noter que pour soutenir la transformation, c'est l'une des mesures majeures. Les 400 francs par kilogramme par amende produite, nous pensons que comme je disais, le gouvernement souhaite aujourd'hui aller à un bon taux de transformation. C'est vraiment pour soutenir, en termes de compétitivité, nos transformateurs. Aussi, vous avez une mesure qui est pratiquement en termes de soutien aussi, au niveau du financement. On a constaté que les banques locales n'étaient pas encore bien imprégnées du secteur de l'ANACAD. Donc, le gouvernement a fait un pas. C'est à la limite, garantir un peu en termes de financement. Et aujourd'hui, au niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire, le Conseil du coton et de l'anacarde fait un dépôt de 25% de la valeur, de la matière première qui est demandée par le transformateur.
And then in terms of, Mr. Minta spoke about it, in terms of incentive for processing, to support processing, we have a subsidy of $0.73 per kilogram. This is really to support processing. And in terms of financing, we did something. We saw that the banks didn't really know the cashew sector. So that what the government did is that we have made guarantee loans. We have we introduced a deposit of 25% of the total value of the raw material of RCN. This is the guarantee that the government offers.
Écoutez, nous pensons que quand le gouvernement met toute cette mesure, mais en même temps, il faut tout ce qui est simple pour le gouvernement. Je veux parler par exemple des produits que nous avons même. Là, ça m'amène à la fermeture des frontières. Vous avez une zone comme Bondoukou, chez nous, qui représente, qui fait de la bonne qualité. Et on nous demande, à la limite, d'ouvrir cette frontière pour que les autres puissent s'approvisionner. Je pense qu'il est important que chacun comprenne en termes de politique de chaque pays. Je veux dire, l'anacarde aujourd'hui, c'est le 3e produit d'exportation de la Côte d'Ivoire. Le 3e produit d'exportation d'un pays qui compte nécessairement dans cette économie. À la limite, il faut bien regarder les enjeux. Et je pense que c'est en cela qu'on a souhaité d'abord cette fermeture pour que, puisqu'on note cela dans notre budget, pour qu'on voie déjà en termes de ressources, qu'est-ce qu'on peut capter. Maintenant, on n'exclut pas. Je veux dire, c'est vrai qu'on est dans une communauté, il y a la CEDEAO, mais il faut regarder comment les choses fonctionnent. Comment vous pouvez comprendre que la Côte d'Ivoire, qui a peut-être 700 000 tonnes, on vous dit de laisser votre frontière ouverte. Pendant ce temps, il y a d'autres pays qui sont peut-être à 40 000, 50 000 tonnes, mais qui eux-mêmes mettent des taxes aussi à l'exportation. Vous comprenez? Et quand on regarde à la fin, en termes de volume exporté par ces pays, ils sont peut-être à 100 000, 200 000. Vous comprenez que je pense qu'il faut vraiment être logique avec soi-même pour dire que cette fermeture de frontières, nécessairement, ce n'est pas contre quelqu'un, c'est parce que l'économie d'un pays repose nécessairement sur ses ressources. Aussi, nous sommes ouverts à des partenariats, je veux dire, gagnant-gagnant. Moi, je suis, personnellement, quand j'étais au Burkina Faso l'année dernière, j'ai vu le Burkina a mis une nouvelle taxe de 30 francs sur ses exportations. Personne n'a parlé. Vous comprenez? Mais écoutez, je pense que ce n'est pas parce que la Côte d'Ivoire est à un certain niveau de production que ça peut faire des polémiques un peu. Il faut vraiment qu'on comprenne. Et on a des partenaires, il y a des pays qui peuvent venir. L'année dernière, on a vu des Ghanéens qui ont exporté à partir de la Côte d'Ivoire par voie maritime. Ça n'a pas posé de problème. Je pense que c'est dans ce sens-là qu'il faut qu'on voie un peu cette histoire de fuite du produit. Et nous, en Côte d'Ivoire, Bondoukou, comme je disais, c'est vraiment la zone où il y a une très bonne qualité. Et quand on prend tout ce qui est production de bonne qualité de la Côte d'Ivoire, qu'on envoie ailleurs, à la limite, notre qualité moyenne, maintenant, on va nous offrir des prix très bas en fonction. Donc vraiment, je pense que ça, c'est un point important pour nous. Il faut que chacun comprenne en termes de souveraineté pour avoir le meilleur prix aussi.
Now, I want to talk about an area like Bondoukou and closing the borders. In Côte d'Ivoire, Bondoukou is an area where the quality is very good. So that's why it is important for us to make sure that the government gets an important part of this good product, because we've seen yes, we are part of ECOWAS, which is an economical area, but you have to take into account that cashew is the 3rd product of exportations in Côte d'Ivoire. So it's really an important product for us. So the importance for us was that to make sure that we get a good value. We have countries, neighboring countries, who produce 40,000, 50,000. And those countries implement taxes, while when Cote d'Ivoire implements taxes on the export, it creates a problem. I went to Burkina Faso last year, and I've seen that Burkina Faso has implemented a tax of 30 francs per kilogram on its exportation. So we have to be very careful when we look at things. We invite other exporters to come to Cote d'Ivoire. For instance, now we have Ghanaian exporters who are coming to Cote d'Ivoire and who are exporting raw cashew nut by the port of Cote d'Ivoire by sea. So we have to be able to look at things in the proper way so that it benefits. We want a win-win partnership with our partners.
D'accord, je vais terminer sur la dernière mesure de 15% de réservation de la production pour les transformateurs. Comme je dis, c'est toujours un choix. La Côte d'Ivoire a décidé de soutenir la transformation. Donc, c'est de permettre à ce que les unités qui sont installées puissent avoir d'abord cette production. Donc, les 15%, je pense que M. Minta a dit que c'était 15% de réservation des produits des exportateurs. En fait, c'est pas ça. Il faut comprendre que les 15%, on souhaite faire une réservation de 15% de la production nationale. Maintenant, l'option qui avait été choisie pour cette campagne 2018, c'était de passer par les exportateurs. Donc, il faut faire un peu la nuance. C'est vrai que cette mesure, on peut dire encore qu'on va chercher à protéger, à approvisionner nos unités de transformation, mais nécessairement pas passer par les exportateurs. Et ça, je peux prendre cet engagement. On ne va pas passer par les exportateurs cette année, donc ils pourront exporter les 100% de produits qu'ils ont, mais on va trouver toujours un mécanisme pour approvisionner les unités de transformation. Je vais terminer sur cette note. Merci.
Now I want to talk about the last measure, which is 15% of the production. In fact, this 15% of this production was intended to be delivered to the installed capacity. So the choice that we made was to take those 15% by the exporters. But I can tell you that this year, you have my word, that we are going to find a new mechanism. Exporters will be allowed to export their 100%, and we'll find a new mechanism to retain 15% for the local processing factories. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have really gotten a very wide spectrum of how governments support the cashew sector, from production, incentive mechanism for export, incentive mechanism for in-country processing, how the regional trade is regulated currently or non-regulated. I think these were the few highlights we have heard. I want to throw also to you now to share your experiences or your appreciation or your worries on government support, incentive mechanism, or where you find the rope for you gets too tight. From your business perspective, where's the rope too tight? Where's the rope too loose? Please share with us from the various countries. It's your unique opportunity also to let the government know what you need for your business to flourish. I know Mr. Srivastava is with the mic.
Today we will not use the Slido. We will have, it's an open house, so we thought we'd use the mic. So anybody would like to ask the questions to either the associations or the government, please raise your hands. May I ask that question which was coming from it? Because
Please.
On behalf, because there was a question which came and then I wrote and gave it to you with the permission of the chair. This is to the Tanzanian delegation, which is minister was here. Because all along we know that when Tanzania had one of the most well-functioning auction system, which was beneficial for farmers as well as the processes. Somebody was asking about what was the motive behind stopping the auctioning system. Just if you can, like, you know,
I asked the question.
probably, like, you know, if it is still relevant, maybe, like, you know, we can take it. Because it was one of the best systems in African context, and we were all very happy about it. Just 1 second.
Guys, your statement.
Rita, I'm sure everybody is anxious to see this thing happening. The system will remain the same. What we are trying to say, please, buyers, come and do business. Don't do cartels. The government is very serious. System has not changed, but we will not accept the cartels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that all the clapping you give for Tanzania's message? I think. So the system in Tanzania has not changed, and buyers are invited to come. Those who are standing outside, I can see some are going inside now. That was the good message. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments to government representatives, or what has worked in other countries? Maybe you also share your lessons from India, 70 years Republic Day today.
We have the African government representatives and trade associations here. One aspect of quality which has been bothering us since the inception of imports of raw cashew nut has happened from Africa in particular is moisture. We have been talking about it yesterday also, we spoke about it. Can this, at this forum, we can recommend to you all that, you know, we have a pre-shipment certificate given by either the government agencies or by internationally accredited surveyors about the moisture content. If that is taken care of, there is no rocket science in raw cashews, it's only drying well. So if that is taken care of, we can arrest a colossal loss of about $250 to $300 million. Whom it pinches is a different point, but I think that could be done. Otherwise, we will be talking about this moisture content and the subsequent deterioration all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the question was about quality and the moisture content, how to secure that. Did I understand it right? Any of the panelists, ACA? And I also want to specifically address it to Nigeria, because when I looked at the quality ratings, I think Nigeria, you can still catch up. So maybe we start with Nigeria and then we go to ACA. Tola, what can you do to assure good quality, low moisture content?
Well, like I would always say, Rome wasn't made in a day. In the Nigerian experience, many of you who have been having relationship or have been trading with Nigerian or buying Nigerian cashew will know that there has been tremendous improvement in the quality and, in fact, in the moisture. What have we done? In the private sector, which I think is important, whatever the government is doing, there must be a strong collaboration with the private sector. What we've done is to see that the sensitization and the training of the farmers is continuously done. Not only that, integrating even with the royal fathers in the villages, educating them and getting them know that this crop, the most important thing about it is the drying, okay? And that we have been doing. And that has, of course, produced the kind of results that we've had progressively over the years. In the last 8 years, there have been tremendous improvement. again, from the Nigerian side, because cashew came in like a backdoor commodity, unlike cocoa, which probably have been there for long and a lot of experiences have been gathered. Some of our inspectors, the government inspectors, have not been quite versatile about the quality, how to handle the quality of cashew, the drying and all of that. So in the last few years, they've been very much integrated into it, and that has helped them in examining and inspecting the cashew. The other aspect is making available the moisture meters. You'll agree with me that, what people used to do was a physical observation. Now we have, I think all over Africa now, many of these moisture meters being made available, and that we are doing, getting them available right into the farm gate for them to be able to assess it themselves. The other aspect is train the farmers, let them see how this cashew is being tested. Okay? A lot of them just see cashew, but now train them. When you cut it, this is a percentage defective, this is a percentage rotten, this is a good nut, and all of that. So if the farmer himself knows how it is done, even when it gets to destination, there will be a lot of improvement. Also, one of the things we want to do in Nigeria now is to see that there is a seal on it. Okay? A seal. We're working on that so that if one can put the seal on it, before the seal can be put on it, that means get anywhere, the cashew would not be more than 10% moisture. That we're going to get to very, very soon. Yes, we're already working on it. I believe in the next 1 year we should get there. We're working assiduously to see that it keeps getting better.
And both of farmers as well as of the inspectors, and in the future a seal.
The other thing I said earlier on, which I think other African countries can learn, is let government do some investment into these things. Moisture being important, let government do some investment. It wouldn't cost too much. We will recoup it back. Having drying platforms in strategic areas for these farmers. If you rely on them to do it, you might not get the kind of result that you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's one version. Let me ask ACA, what do you wish to secure your image? It's your nuts.
All right,
you are the business representative from Africa.
Yeah, I think it's also a major concern for most of our members, the kind of moisture losses that have been recorded over the years, sometimes even as high as 3 to 4%, and factories having to buy raw cashew nuts and then re-drying and making losses along the line. So for us, it is also, as Tola mentioned, the idea is to get into more RCN certification, so that everybody will know, okay, this type of ICN that I'm buying, it has a certain seal of approval, which shows that it has been properly dried and the rest. But we also counted on governments to also streamline the levels at which different buyers can get to, because over the years we have also seen buyers as the DG for CCA said, going as far as to farmers' fields and picking on dried nuts. So when it happens that way, there's a rush. People are buying on dried nuts only to dry in the factories, and sometimes even to sell to unsuspecting exporters. So I think some of these things will also have to be addressed, so that there's not a loss of image for the countries, because when in the end there's a high moisture level in whatever is coming from a particular country, it affects also the impression about price, and it's ultimately something that is passed on to farmers who are getting the lower incomes. So we are piloting the RCN quality inspection, which will be done more in Ghana, and I see Nigeria also interested. But I think more, we also have to work on the issue of traceability. There is also the SSS traceability system, which we buy into and endorse, so that we will be able to know whatever arrives at a factory in Africa or even in Asia, we will be able to trace it back to where it came from, and then be able to address whatever issues are found at the factory floor, right there in where the nuts are coming from. And if it is a matter of poor drying, foreign materials, high moisture, we will then be able to address the issue at the particular place where the problems are coming from. So I think for us, it is more inspection of the RCN certification of it, and then secondly, doing strong traceability to be able to go back to the source whenever a problem is identified at the processor end or on the shelf. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What do you do if the RCN is not of the quality? Let me ask here in the House, but also the governments then. What if it's not your quality? Is it price? Is it rejection? How to act and where to feed back the complaint? Do you have a complaint system? Do you have a pricing system? I saw a hand up there also for a contribution. Maybe we can get that. The microphone, please. There was a hand here in the middle.
Hello. I have one question.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel that while foreign capital is welcome in Africa, a foreigner in the field is seen as disruption. Is not it contradictory? Just few moments ago, we were told that when buyers, consumers are directly going to the field, they are creating a lot of disruption.
Maybe I didn't hear it very well, acoustic-wise.
The question is, some countries welcome foreign investments, but then why don't you welcome foreigners coming making the push? What is the distinction of the difference?
Yes, please.
Short answers, please.
Short answers. Is it the short answer, Tola?
Thank you. Very, very quickly. When foreigners go to the bush, that's not the area of core competence. That is, the area where we should have our local people collect from the farmers, then take it to the next point. Don't forget we call it value chain. It's a chain. When the foreigner comes from, wherever, and goes right into the bush,
Can I go
you are denying job opportunities for our people. Nobody does that. In Vietnam, it will never happen. You cannot go and buy the... Africans have the opportunity, but they won't allow us. We can go there too. But would you allow us? Will you allow an African to go into the bush in India? No, I believe so. So there must be, a proper strategization in whatever anybody is doing, particularly when it comes to commodities. There should be order. Also, when we are talking about price fluctuations, no parity between the buying price and the selling price. Why is it happening? It's because the guy who is a buyer goes right into the bush and causes a lot of trouble. And then quality.
Tola, short answer.
Quality.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So
We
there's
have
no
heard
dispute
one
about that.
opinion. Mozambique has a different one.
Thank you. For Mozambique, until now, foreigners go to the bush. But we have approved a new regulation last year. In this new regulation also will not be allowed to foreigners to go to the bush. Thank you.
May I still tease the governments a bit? Is it about competitiveness or is it about nationalities? So let me still go back to Côte d'Ivoire. Local investment in process. We have still contributions from the floor. I prefer that one. Right. Let's have... Sorry. Over there? Okay.
Hello. Okay, I'm Abdul. Hearing all the different panelists now, whether it's a government or trade association, we all agree that the way forward for Africa is processing. We all believe that if Africa wants to benefit from cashew, it has to go into processing, because it's been going on for a long time where most of Africa cashew are exported raw, and we all agree that we should go into processing. But what I've noticed also is that there is no much collaboration between those different African countries. If you take countries like Mozambique, there seems to be very much experience into processing. And I believe that if with more collaboration between those different countries, Ivory Coast or Nigeria, for example, will benefit from older or more traditional processing countries. So is there anything in place where, or I don't know if it's ACA, African Cashew Alliance, to facilitate collaboration between those different governments so they could learn from each other and speed up the process of processing, because this is the future for Africa. If we want to benefit from it, we have to go into processing and we have to move fast. And to move fast, we can learn from each other, learn from successful stories, and I think the new country coming into processing will benefit from learning from the older countries. So that's, I wanted to throw that in and see if there's anything in place at the moment where countries to collaborate more rather than working in silos. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Collaboration between countries, between experienced and lesser experienced actors, and collaboration between private and public is one question. But let us have the other contribution, which is up here in the middle since.
This is to the Nigerian authorities. Just pressure will be diversified from Lagos to that new port, and how fast the containers will move, because unlike like last year, we should not face the problem this year. So I would like to have a knowledge on that.
Thank you very much. Specific question to Nigeria, and I have still a hand up here from Tanzania, Dr. Masawe.
I think the best way to deal with the moisture content in all African countries is to have unofficial marketing centers at the district level. If farmers are organized in cooperatives, then there should be cooperative warehouses. It is in this place that the moisture can be controlled before it goes into the central marketing area. If you don't do that one, and you allow everybody to go and collect, the situation will remain the same. In Tanzania, we had a similar problem about 20 years ago. Today, that problem is no longer there. It's because of the warehouse receipt system and the quality control right at the village level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good example of the soon-to-be refunctioning Tanzanian warehouse receipt system. And there was a question to Nigeria regarding the speed of farm to port. Maybe we can get an answer from Mr. William Esegu.
Yes, thank you for that question. I just want to assure you that the issues you discussed are also very germane to us. There's a lot of things going on right now on that issue. And one of them, like I said earlier, is the issue of using the Kurudu light terminal to move products. So instead of trucks waiting on the access road to the port, which for one reason or the other, delays the process, we are now using the Kurudu light terminal, which is a lighter terminal, have been designated as an export port. So all the export products, whether it's cashew nut, whether it's sesame seed, whether it's cement, anything that for export goes through that terminal. And from that terminal, it now moves to the main port, because of course it's by water, so it's easier. So your issue of maybe staying 2 weeks or so on the road, no, that has been solved. But you might be a logistic problem anyway, but the issue is that it will take care of. In the next 2 days or 3 days, when you get to the light terminal, you should be at the port. And again, the port, like I said yesterday or 2 days ago, is normally is used to 12 hours, but now it's 24 hours. But more critical is now they're using an electronic platform to do documentation. For example, there's what we call the NXP form. NXP is just for inspection purposes, You just formally need to go to the bank to pay, come back, do this. No, but right now, under the supervision of CBN, all your transaction is now on electronic platform. So you fill the form online, do everything you have to do, pay everything. Then, of course, when it comes, the man that comes to, just come to your port, to your warehouse, inspect the product, and there it goes to the port, and from there you go. So all those
Thank
processes
you
are
very much.
Thank you very much.
Infrastructure and electronic tracing system. We hope the speed is then observed. We will do the impact study in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next question?
All right, I just have a comment on what we discussed both yesterday and today. I think I just want to encourage...
Can you give us your name or the
Okay, my name is Tunde from Nigeria.
Yeah.
I belong to the North-Linked Investment Limited. Okay, I just want to encourage that our panelists, especially those from African governments, that they need to do much to support the African traders, that the producers, the exporters. Like our friend, our brother from Tanzania, was just saying something like, he sees that there's something like a cartel in the industry. Because I could buttress, this could be buttressed with what was discussed yesterday, that we are talking about fixing the general idea of what the price will be in 2019. And I remember that it was mentioned that a ton of a cashew should be FOB at about $1,200, while a gram of a processed W320 should be about 3.2 to 3.5. If on, by my own analysis, I stand to be corrected, it looks very unrealistic. Because if it's like that, yes, $1,200 for a ton of cashew, it looks, raw cashew, that's RCN, may look good, but if you look at that, it cannot be sold after processing for $3.2 per kg. That's for W320. We can do, if you look, we look into it, you see that it looks very unrealistic. So possibly the foreign buyers, there could be some support from their government in terms of processing. So I think the African governments need to do a lot to support the producers and the exporters especially to be able to compete in the market.
A plea to support local businesses.
Yes.
Thank you.
Since we are talking that the way forward for the African governments is processing.
It has been heard. Thank you.
Rita, I want to raise this point that came up in the last session yesterday. That's regarding the flagging day in most of the West African origins that we see. The season starts, material is collected, but it is flagged off quite late in the season, probably a month later. And even after flagging, most of the times the government is not yet decided on the duties and the taxations and everything. Do we not need to now, since most of the countries are represented here, have an understanding that let's have this all fixed at least a month before the actual flagging of day? It's not a big deal. Everyone knows what's the size of the crop, so it's not a big... I think it will go a long way in ensuring that the crop reaches the destination much quickly and most of the traders don't face these defaults.
Thank you very much. A very important point on timing and communication. This has also been raised yesterday once, when and how it is communicated so that businesses can prepare ahead budget-wise. The government, how does that sound for you? Is there anything you can do more in time and an improved communication early? Any? Côte d'Ivoire, of course, because we get half of the crop from you, so let us hear.
Ok. D'accord. Je pense qu'effectivement, il faut très vite annoncer les mesures que nous mettons en place pour les différentes campagnes. Et nous, on a vraiment compris cela. Donc, cette année, on pense qu'on va vite communiquer. On va très vite communiquer. Mais ce que je voudrais dire, tout ce qui est, comme il vient de dire, les taxes qu'on peut mettre, ainsi de suite, ça permet aux opérateurs de pouvoir discuter, de pouvoir négocier. Quand ils savent déjà quelles sont les taxes qui sont en place, ils peuvent très bien discuter. Mais ce qu'il faut noter aussi, il faut beaucoup de transparence. Il faut beaucoup de transparence dans les négociations. Nous pensons principalement en Côte d'Ivoire, nous avons des opérateurs qui vendent, que ce soit en Inde, au Vietnam même au Brésil, nous on souhaiterait avoir de très bonnes informations qui puissent permettre au Conseil du coton et de l'anacarde, par exemple, de bien discuter avec l'État. Parce que le gouvernement peut avoir des ambitions, mais quand le gouvernement a les bonnes informations, ça permet à chacun d'être bien situé. Excusez, mais je prends le cas de l'année dernière. Quand les taxes ont été données, vous comprenez que les opérateurs eux-mêmes ont mis l'État dans de bonnes conditions. Parce qu'on a démarré avec un DUS où tout le monde disait que c'était élevé, mais un mois seulement, les prix n'ont fait que augmenter. Quand les prix augmentent, le gouvernement s'est dit, mais donc, mes taxes ne sont pas les problèmes. Est-ce que vous comprenez? Donc je pense qu'ensemble, il faut analyser cela.
La traduction, s'il vous plaît.
Yes. I think that we have heard. To this year, we'll take all the measures to really announce all the information quickly. So concerning the taxes, I know that we will make them know real quick so that negotiations can go better. We need more transparency, especially informations from the market. In Côte d'Ivoire, we export to India, Vietnam, and even Brazil. So if we have the good information from those markets, we can better discuss with the government, because government can have its own ambitions. But if we have the good information from the market, then we can better implement things. Last year, for instance, we saw that we gave the DUS, which is the right to export, the taxes. When we implemented it, people said that it was high. And then after that, 1 month later, the price was going, the price was going high. So the government saw that it's not the tax that is the problem. So it's really important that we have the good information from the different markets. This will allow different traders to negotiate and to set up their operations more efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have heard that the timing communication to improve. We have heard the issues about collaboration. We have the African Cashew Alliance as a private sector platform for better communication between governments. We have heard about the Consultative International Cashew Council. So there are certain measures started. We have a contribution here.
Thank you very much. I thought you were rounding up without taking my comment.
Sorry, I didn't see you because you are right in front of the light, so sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make a little contribution over the moisture palaver. I represent Sterling Global Nigeria Limited. We are major exporter of cocoa and cashew from Nigeria. I want to just compare the two produce, cashew and cocoa. Cocoa comes from various parts of Nigeria into warehouses in Lagos, and nobody ever complained about moisture problem. Why? The trade is structured. Whoever is buying cocoa out of Nigeria buys from the exporters. But a situation where we jump the exporters to buy cashew from farmers, then you have problems.
Okay.
So I will just employ each and everybody that wants to come and buy cashew from Africa, buy from people that have facilities to deliver to you good produce. A situation where you want to jump that, people have invested. People took loan from banks to do this business. And at the end of the day, you just come with your dollar, you change it at the black market, you enter into the bush, and you want to buy at farm gate price. What do you get? He who pays peanuts, or he who employs monkeys pay peanuts, or who pay peanuts employs monkey. So let's just face the reality. Buy from the people that knows the farmer, how to handle them. We are not charging you more. We have investments. We took bank loan. It is right for you to pay the fair price. That's my submission, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Strong statements for structured trade with exporters, with infrastructure, warehouses, drying floors in place. This is all partly installed, partly in the making. Governments with a role, private sector with a role. and I think all of us in a role of communicating where it does not function so we have a chance to improve it. And with that, I want to thank the organizers to have this session and all of you to contribute. We will for sure continue the discussion just outside this room and ahead in the various contributions. I have a last question to Côte d'Ivoire. You said you will very soon announce the regulations for this season. When is the very soon? You know, I work with time, data. I don't work with very soon or something. Maybe you think about and announce it in the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And a big thank you to Ms. Rita, our moderator for this session, for the smooth conduct. Thank you so much to all our panelists for the various divergent views that they shared with us, and of course presenting more opportunities, more stability and better cooperation. And with that, we'd request our moderator to kindly present mementos to all our esteemed panelists here. Starting with Mr. Ernest Mintha. Thank you so much, Mr. Mintha, for your cooperation and your views that you shared this morning. To Mr. Tola Faseru. Thank you to you for giving us a clear understanding and opening the doors for better opportunities. To Mr. William. Thank you to you for your valuable insights and more business opportunities in Nigeria. To Mr. Mamdou Barte. Thank you to you for your contributions. And may I request Madam to present memento to Mr. Ilidio. Thank you to you as well, sir. And with that, I would request Honorable Ms. Stella, Executive Director, Nigerian Exim Bank, to join us here on the dais and present a memento to Ms. Rita for being a wonderful moderator and getting different divergent views on the same page. Thank you. And maybe have a quick group photograph for records.